So Jesus tells this story about the guy that goes to a wedding banquet and tries to look for places of honor. I go to a lot of wedding banquets, kind of part of my job. And I never get to choose where I sit. They usually give me that place of honor, sitting with the parents of the bride and the groom, for example. So I can't really tell a story about that, but there is a wedding banquet story I'd like to share with you. Not because it has anything to do with the lesson for today, but just because it's kind of fun. Is that all right? So, many years ago, I did a wedding for a couple. I had known the young man since he was in high school. He married a young lady from Columbia, Missouri. They met in college, blah, blah, blah. I do the wedding here in Omaha. This was back when I was teaching at Archbishop Bergen High School in Fremont. So I get sat at the table with the parents of the bride and the groom and this other couple that I was just introduced to as Ann and Stan. So I'm sitting next to Stan, and so I started trying to make small talk, right? Just trying to make a connection. And so I said, hey, Stan, you live in Columbia, Missouri. Any chance, are you a fan of the St. Louis Rams? And he said, yeah, I consider myself a fan. I said, well, I think this is an amazing statistic that last year there were 2 teammates playing for the St. Louis Rams that were teammates in high school at this tiny little Catholic school in Fremont, Nebraska. They were high school classmates and teammates that ended up being on the same NFL team together. And our math teacher kind of did the math on that. It's like, that's one in millions and millions chances of that happening, right? And he's like, wow, I didn't know that. What's their names? And I told him their names. Zach Wiegert was the, sorry, it's time for me to go over to Sacred Heart now. Well, does anybody got the collection for me to take over? All right, sorry. So Zach Wiegert, Outland Trophy winner, he's a starter on the offensive line. Everybody knows him. But the other guy is like a third-string defensive end. His name is Brad Otis. And he's like, Stan is like, yeah, I've heard of them both. Wow. I did not know they were from the same high school. And so then we start going on and on, talking away and sharing different stories about football games that we had seen, blah, blah, blah. And then later on, I finally just say, so Stan, what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm primarily in land development, but I'm also part owner of the St. Louis Rams. And I'm like, what did I say? What did I say? What did I say? What did I say? So it was interesting because I was really, really relaxed and comfortable with him up until that point. Yeah. So that was my once-in-a-lifetime wedding story. So his last name is Stan Kroenke. Yeah. And he's not so beloved in St. Louis anymore because he's the one that moved them to L.A. Yeah. Oh, and that land development stuff, putting in Walmarts all over the place. Yeah, his wife was the daughter of the Walton family, right? So anyway, but our readings do have a message for us other than that story I just told you. It's clear, the message in all 3 of our readings today is about humility. The opposite of humility is, I would say, and I think all of the spiritual fathers over the years in our Catholic faith would agree, that the deadliest of the deadly sins is pride, right? Some people want to make it lust, but pride is the deadliest of all sins. And so what we're invited to in all three of these readings is to look at humility. How do we go away from that temptation of pride, of putting ourselves first? As many of you have probably heard me say already, it is all about me, okay? But not really, hopefully, most of the time. So, but how do we continue to get in touch with humility? I think there's a hint in the word itself. So it comes from a Latin word, humus, which means of the earth or the soil, right? And so whenever we pay attention to groundedness, then I think we are being led into that space of humility. It's interesting, during the ordination rites, I was thinking about this because my good friend, Bishop-elect Ralph O'Donnell, I just learned some parishioners at St. Margaret Mary are calling him B-Row. B-Row. Yeah, so anyway, let's just say B-Row is preparing for yet another ordination ceremony that he's going to go through. He, like me, has already gone through 2 of them, right? And now he's preparing for the 3rd. And the same thing that happened at the earlier 2 will happen at the 3rd one for him, where he will lay face down, close to the earth, lay down in front of everybody in this posture of humility, when the community will then pray for him, invoking all the saints to come to his aid. The first time that happened for me was in diaconate ordination, and I think she was 10 years old at that time, one of my nieces, 10-year-old, who thought she was a valley girl from, even though she was living on a farm in Nebraska. She's like, she comes to me afterwards, she's like, oh my gosh, Uncle David,